If we don't have any questions before we get started, we're going to zip through this real quickly. I got to tell you, I was excited about this. I had a question last week that was brought up. Kathleen asked what became a pretty interesting question to me. And the question was this: is there anyone developing medication to prevent falls? And the short answer to that is yes and no. Pharmaceutical companies will tell you yes, but you really have to read between the lines here, all right? And we're going to break this down pretty quickly. And then if you want to learn more, you can go to mybalanceuniversity.com, go to references and sources, and print this source page out, and you can see all the little notes. But I'm going to give you the highlights right here, okay? So when I typed this in, I got from my AI search assist, which is fantastic, by the way. I like it. Scary though. Yes, several companies are developing medications aimed at treating vestibular disorders. So not necessarily balance, but it's vestibular disorders which directly impact balance, that affect balance. These medications often focus on reducing symptoms like dizziness and vertigo associated with various vestibular conditions. So let's break this down. All right. There are really no specific medications that address balance. However, there are medications that address neuropathy, that address the vestibular system, like the inner ears and vertigo we just read about. Medications that can impact blood pressure, right? That can have an impact on your balance, guys. And so what you're looking at are 5 systems that we use when it comes to balance. And what are those 5 systems? And then you have to look at medications that address those 5 systems. Okay, and they're all independent of each other, but they all work together like a team, right? On a football field, let's say you're the University of Michigan or the University of Texas, big game this week against Georgia, hook 'em horns, all right? You're a team, but everyone has different responsibilities. But if everyone, and I'm channeling by Bill Belichick here, if everyone just does their job, the team succeeds as a whole. That's kind of how you have to look at these medications. The 5 systems. You have vestibular systems. Where's my list? The vestibular system, the eyes and the ears, right? We just talked about vertigo and dizziness, all right? Then you have mechanoreceptors. What are mechanoreceptors? These are the receptors that if you have neuropathy, it can be devastating to your balance because there's not a whole lot we can do for neuropathy. You can take gabapentin. Best thing to do that research and physicians will tell you, exercise. Do load-bearing exercises, and that will help reduce, not eliminate, symptoms of neuropathy. But what neuropathy does, it's these nerves, their communication has gotten separated or disconnected, and they are unable to communicate with the brain. Mechanoreceptors are receptors at the bottoms of your feet that detect pressure. Too far forward, sends a signal to my brain, tells me to go back. Too far back, I get another signal. So it's constantly sending signals in order to help me stay upright and erect. Now, proprioceptors. These proprioceptors are little nerve endings in our epidermis, in our skin, that tell our brain where our limbs are in space and time. If you've known anyone, or maybe you don't even need to know anyone, a lot of you may be aware of phantom limb pain. That's when someone has a limb amputated and their brain is still trying to connect to those receptors that are no longer there, those proprioceptors that are no longer there. So they are sending signals to our brain along with the eyes, the ears, and the mechanoreceptors to keep us upright and erect. Leg strength, all right, that's going to be number 4. Leg strength is gold. And neuromuscular efficiency. How are all these systems working together? Neuromuscular efficiency is a fancy word to say how well the nervous system, the brain and spine, are communicating with the muscular system and all those receptors. So when it comes to medications, think about all the different medications you would need to take to address all those different sectors, all those different tools that we use, all those different systems that we use, all right? And that's kind of how I approach this view. So yes and no would be the answer, all right? And so now with AI, who knows? We might be walking on our heads here before long. All right. With that being said, guys, let's stand. Let's go behind our chairs. All right, we're going to rock and roll.